Hello, and welcome to the Kickstart Your Confidence 21-Day Global Summit. We would like to welcome you and let you know that we will begin shortly. We are live from Victoria, BC, Canada. Let us know where you're attending from in the comments. We also wanted to share our content note with you and remind folks that the information that is provided herein is for educational and entertainment purposes only. This information is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease, but to inform you, the participant, of alternative methods for healing. In all health-related situations, qualified healthcare professionals should always be consulted. Some of our experts are doctors, naturopaths, and other medical professionals. However, you are encouraged to consult your own healthcare professional. In other words, no doctor-patient relationship is informed or suggested at any time during the series. Please also keep in mind that the host finds a lot of information from credible third parties and shares it here in this online forum when it is relevant. By participating in this online event, you acknowledge and agree that the third-party content is not created by the host and is shared with you, the participant, for educational, entertainment, and informational purposes only. And in no way do they guarantee a pledge or endorsement by the host for you, the participant, to take action on what the third party suggests or recommend on their sites or in their interviews. Please understand that this event provides general information only and is never a substitute for professional and medical advice. Most importantly, please consult your healthcare provider if you suspect a serious health concern. Always seek the advice of your mental health professional or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding your condition. Your health is your wealth. Don't delay in taking the proper steps in saving your life. By the same token, we are also not providing any financial advice during this series. A summit, online forum, workshop, event is meant to inform. Taking action for your own health, finances, and life is meant to create change. Never disregard professional advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard or read that was shared during the online summit. Our platform provides an open and safer space for the critical and civil exchange of ideas that aren't often talked about when it comes to menopause and aging. Some content in this series will include topics and themes that some viewers may find difficult. We will always do our best to give you a proper heads up to prepare yourself mentally and emotionally beforehand. Thank you so much and welcome and enjoy today's show. Welcome to Kickstart Your Confidence. Learn useful secrets to manage and prepare for a happy menopause without breaking a sweat, losing sleep, or opportunity. My name is Tira Green, and today I have the pleasure of introducing and hosting Robin Tillotson. Robin is someone who has a wealth of experience and knowledge, and I'm so happy that she's going to be sharing this with us. She has a background in advertising, public relations, human relations, and so she's just been all over the place, and she also has a specific knowledge in training and gerontology, which I think is very awesome. And my favorite thing about her is that she is so well traveled. She has been to China, North Africa. She has been to all over the United States, Canada, and I can tell you that she has so much knowledge to share with us. So I'll just leave it at that, and I'll say, welcome, Robin.
Well, thank you, Tara. It's such a pleasure to be here with this community.
Oh, my pleasure. And, there's so many things I want to pick your brain about, but I'm going to keep it focused because it's like I'm going to keep it real focused. So one thing that I wanted to talk about is this thing around gerontology. And so just quickly, before, just in case anyone doesn't know what that is, can you describe a little bit about what that is?
Sure, Tara. So gerontology is the field that studies older adults, whether it's relative to their developmental phases, their physiology, and just what the trends are as it relates to older adults. As you know, there are 77 million baby boomers on the scene, and so our society is aging rapidly. And not in a negative way, but in the sense that there is this whole group of people who are bringing a lot of knowledge, energy, activism, and whatever you can think of to the table.
Love that. And I always say one of my favorite age groups are octogenarians. And so, I look forward to hopefully being an 80-year-old, 90-year-old, and maybe 120, who knows, right?
Yeah, you and me
um,
both.
yeah, right. So I thank you for being involved in that because aging as a society, for some reason we forget that you're still valuable and you still have a lot to offer. So with that said, can you just give me some of the myths? Some of the myths I hear especially when it pertains to menopause, is like our life is over. Aging is bad. It's a disease.
Mhm.
What do you say to that?
Well, when you look at the baby boomers now and older adults in general, they don't have to be in that particular cohort. People are defying the odds beyond belief. I am currently working with a senior who is 76 now, and she started her events planning business at age 74. So, what I say to that is that for many people, this is the beginning of life. It's the opportunity to start delving into things that they've always wanted to do. They're finished raising children. They're not trying to climb the corporate ladder. They're not trying to prove anything. They, at this stage, really just want to enjoy their lives. So you will find older people who are far more physically fit than some of the younger people are. They're dancing, they're taking stepping classes. I have seniors who were members of my center when I was running the center who were doing belly dancing twice a week. So that myth about older people, after you hit 50, you get in a rocking chair and you sit there and, you think about taking care of the grandbabies and, preparing for death. Those days are long gone.
Mm, I love that. That just gives me so much hope and vigor. And, I think that there's a lot of, stigma around getting growing. And it's like, but why are we here then? You're not just gonna just,
Exactly.
just stop, right? So
Exactly.
so I appreciate you for that. So I wanted to mention you have a podcast and it's called This I Do for Me. And can you share a little bit about that and also about the uniqueness of the title and where that came from?
Sure. So there are two legs to my business. I recently retired, I should mention, from the city of Chicago, where I ran a senior center, one of 21 senior centers in the city of Chicago. And I did that because I wanted to devote time to a business I created approximately 7 years ago. So the business is called This I Do for Me. And our goal is to take women who are age 50 plus all over the world. So we have been on every continent except Antarctica. And as I've said to you before, we ain't going to Antarctica. I can pretty much assure you of that. But we have been on every continent, you name it. We've been to Greece, we've been to Ghana, we're going to Tanzania and back to Ghana next year. We've been to Australia, we've been to Spain. I could go on and on and on. And one of the reasons I wanted to start that business was because I was observing that older women were really, really focused on their grandchildren, their spouses, their aging parents. They're in the sandwich generation where they're taking care of many times younger people and older people. And as much as they love doing it, one of the things that kind of stood out for me, Tira, was that they weren't really doing anything for themselves. So the title comes from something my mother created. She bought herself a purse one day and said to me and my brother, after many sacrifices like most mothers do, and she said, I bought a purse for myself and this I do for me. And I must have been anywhere between 11 and 15. I can't remember exactly when she said that, but that always stuck with me, that women should be making sure that they're taking care of themselves and that there's no shame in their game. The podcast is This I Do for Me, Women Over 50, Black and Fabulous. And the podcast aim is to interview and to focus on the phenomenal things that women, Black women specifically, age 50 plus, are doing. So we talk about their trajectory in their careers, some of the things that many of them have left their careers to start new pursuits. Many of them are writing books, creating wonderful works of art and exhibiting them in really famous venues, art venues. So I wanted to capture that and leave that information behind, not only for older women, older Black women, but for younger Black women. And so that they have some type of roadmap on how to navigate this thing called aging.
Oh, wow. And I've been very privileged too. I mean, I started traveling, when I was 3 years old. And so
Wow.
I've gone places, right? And I was always encouraged to go places. I got my passport when I was, so I would have been 16 going into 17. So, and a lot of times, especially in the Black and Brown communities, we don't go outside our city limits, let alone
So
our
true.
small
So
towns
true.
or, so I think that's amazing. So I'm going to put a pin on that, but I want to circle back to just the specifically being a Black and a brown person. But when you're talking about travel, because I think that's something that's very curious to me, and I'm sure for a lot of audience members potentially, is that you've been traveling, and I think you've been traveling all through the great sickness of 2020. And what can you say about growing and pivoting through international travel?
Well, one of the things I've noticed with the women that I've worked with, many of them have traveled extensively domestically, but not abroad. So for many of the women, they are a little reticent, a little nervous, particularly when you start talking about going to countries where you have to have extra documentation like visas and how to navigate that whole process. So one of the things that I noticed, I've created groups or Facebook groups and Instagram groups for those groups, the groups that I'm going to be taking over abroad. And one of the things I've noticed is that a question that they might have is a very basic question. What should I take? What should I pack? And then as time goes on, you start to see the growth. And many times when we're in the destination, which is some year, a year to a year and a half after we've started the process, I stand back from the group and I can really watch them and see how they've grown. They're looser, they're more confident, they're willing to take more chances. And one indicator is that they're asking me now, whereas they were reticent before, now they're asking me, when is the next trip? So I think it's really important to remember, Tira, that as you get older, you are still developing. Developing and growing does not stop. And for those of us who are familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs and the developmental process, we know that just it doesn't stop after you reach teenage years. So we're doing things now that we didn't have time to do before or may have even been afraid to do. So that's what I've noticed more than anything, the growth and the confidence level builds.
Mm. And so, to anyone who's thinking of traveling, maybe they're single, maybe they're thinking about going on a first trip, with a community, or just they're ready
Mhm.
to travel and they're ready to step out and go abroad, for example. Do you have one specific tip that you can share with them?
Well, I think if you decide you're going to go with a group, if you've not done it before, it might be a really good idea to go with a group. That way you can feel more comfortable, you build community. Women in my groups develop lifelong friendships long after the trip. If you decide that you're going to do, some people decide they want to do a solo trip first. They may start out small in the States or somewhere close to home and then build up. But I think the key is to get out there and do it. If it's something you've been saying you're going to be doing, if you've been saying you're going to be doing this for 20 years and it's 20 years later and you still haven't done it, it's time to do it. and you can scale it down. You don't have to start out big. I know one woman who her first solo trip was to Australia, and most people are like, Australia, wow. And then, you know, for someone like her, that was okay. For someone else, they might want to start, they might want to go to Paris first, you know, or they might want to go to Georgia. Who knows? The key is to start it and to get out there and do it. And I can guarantee you, once you start traveling and you reap the benefits of meeting people and learning about people in those particular countries and immersing yourself in the culture, from the food to dance to whatever, I can guarantee you, you'll continue to travel.
Oh, great. And I realized what I said in the intro. I think I said human relations. I meant human resources. It's HR. You've got a lot of
Oh, okay.
knowledge. You've got a lot of knowledge in HR and advertising and people, you know, public relations and people. And so I think that is something that's really, you know, that's really like it's a well-rounded, right? It's like people, and it's being able to see people and nurture people. And so one thing I want to specifically talk about now, because I think it's important that we, you know, acknowledge that there are Black and brown bodies that will be viewing this. And I want to just speak specifically to, you know, like as you're aging as a Black woman, you know, because I'm going to be an aging Black woman, you know, I'm an aging Black woman.
Yes.
What are some key takeaways? What are some key insights that you want to share with us? You know, looking back, as you know, some of us are going to be starting menopause. Some of us are towards the end. You know, just what are some words of wisdom?
I think the key, Tara, is having a community. I know when I started menopause, I was in my mid 40s when that whole process started. And by 53, even though I was in the throngs of it, that was the time that I came up with the idea of starting a business that I wanted to pivot into once I retired from my city job. My words of wisdom would be get into a community, no matter what that is. If you are having a really hard menopausal period, it is critical that you really connect with other women who are experiencing the same thing or who have been through what you're going through. So I think that's one thing that Black and brown women have been able to do through the years, is they've always had community. Networking is not new to us. We might not have called it that, but we have always been there for each other. If you didn't have salt and I had it, I gave you that. If you needed babysitting, I did it for you, or you did it for me. So that's not new to us. I think the key is to recognize and honor how important a process that is and to maintain it.
Yeah, and that's something that's you've mentioned, you know, like when I had this, I was able to share that. And so that just brings me to this concept of like your gifts, you know, like how do you
Mm.
determine your gifts as you're aging? And, you know, what are some words of wisdom for that?
I think it's really important to start taking an inventory, because most of us don't realize that we have gifts. We've been on automatic pilot for years, and Black and brown women have been in the business of helping everybody else, white men, white women, businesses, churches, you name it. We've been helping everybody. And now it is really time to focus in on you. Now, that doesn't mean you won't work to the betterment or do community service or volunteer, but I think this is your opportunity now to take an inventory over your whole life, to even become aware of what your gifts are. Many times we haven't even thought about it because we've just been out here functioning. And you would be surprised, once you take an inventory, you will have a clear perspective of what direction you want to go in at this point in your life. You're also, I believe, are going to find that there are going to be some new things that you want to get involved in. I've just recently started picking up art. And I never considered myself an artist. As a matter of fact, I thought that was something, you know, for certain people. But that's something that's been dormant in me. And so I'm at this point realizing and thinking about what it is that I want to do, achieve, and more importantly, experience. It's really about experiencing before I leave this earth.
What I'm hearing is that it's about finding a way to maybe write things down, maybe go inward, and then take action on them. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
And again, the key is start out small. So you make a list. Let's say you have 3 items and you say, well, I've always wanted to learn how to cook, Portuguese food, just as an example. I always wanted to learn how to make food. Then put that on your list and then do it. Check it off and go to the next thing. And then as you will find that as time goes on, you're going to add more things to the list. You're going to check off more things to the list. And then try to really get involved in whether it's an organization or social groups or meetup groups where people are doing this. I have a friend who loves board games, and she couldn't find anybody that really wanted to do it on a regular basis. So she joined a meetup group, and they play Scrabble twice a month. So it's real. It doesn't have to be anything major. You might have major things on your list. I mean, you may want to go to Machu Picchu in Peru. I don't know. But it could be something very, very simple. And I think that's another way of, once you're checking those things off your list, that's another way of building confidence and feeling good about what you're doing on a day and being more conscious as opposed to just out here, just helping everybody, doing everything and not really absorbing what it is, the benefit of it for you, I should say.
It's kind of like your mother helped you, realize this I do for me. I think like, all spectrums of women, whether, what stage we are in menopause, or post-menopause, we often don't do for us,
Exactly. Exactly. Yes.
So
We haven't been taught, coming up, we haven't been taught about the whole life cycle from our periods right through to menopause. And so we're really grasping. I heard an article or read an article recently where Oprah went to many doctors trying to figure out what was going on with her. And not once did anybody explore the idea of menopause, that these were things that were connected to menopause. And once she did find someone who really could pinpoint what was going on, help her pinpoint what was going on, it made all the difference in the world.
isn't that so interesting? And that's something that I've definitely heard. It's like a pattern that I've heard. It's like on the one hand, there's a lot of stuff that's sold to us, and it could be, just really just sold to us. It's just packaged, right? Just pretty, and it has no substance. And then on the other hand, it's like nothing is being said at all. It's like a big mystery. So it's
Yes,
like
yes,
it's very disconnected and very confusing. And so
yes,
that's why I love that there's so many people for this forum who are just like, no, here we're going to share our stories. We're going to, give you some tips and nuggets so you don't have to feel alone. You don't have to feel
yes.
siloed. And for you, when you were going through your menopausal stages, what helped you really just to feel like connected and not all over the place in the chaos?
Well, one was I was blessed to have friends who were going through the same thing as I was at the same time. So could check in with each other. Are you finding yourself highly emotional, or are you in pain in any way? Are you experiencing certain bodily pain that you haven't before? So again, I'm back to community, whether it's one person or 10 people, having someone that you could talk to. And then I also found, Tara, that it was a period of excitement because I now, even though I've never married and I've never had children, I still knew I felt like this was now a time that I could do almost anything. I went back and got my master's in social work. I worked 20 years with senior citizens. Um, I did a little bit of everything, and I plan to keep doing it too. So I think having that balance of, and that awareness of what's going on with your body, but also seeing it as a beautiful period of your life. When we start our periods, some people have been taught that this is what makes you a woman. This is a beautiful time. Well, menopause is the same way. It's just managing it, learning to manage it, and understanding it in the context of your entire life or the life cycle in general.
So well said. And so I want to circle back to travel a little bit because just in case there you might have some wisdom and we can get it out of you. Do you have any like little secret packing tips or anything for folks who want to travel?
Yes. The key is don't overpack. And I go through, I get so tickled because I see when people are really freaking out about what should I pack, and they've got stuff hanging out the suitcase. It's like, keep it simple and count the number of days you're going to be there. Always have some extra underwear, as our mothers always told us. But typically, I find that taking what I need versus what I think I might need helps to burden, lighten that burden. Because one thing I've noticed is overpacking can really ruin your vacation. And so, or your travel experience. So, that one packing hack would be don't overdo it. And then there are others that I'm happy to share with people. As a matter of fact, I can send you a list of packing hacks that, we can share. But that would definitely be one as it relates to packing.
Yes, and definitely, I'm sure our audience would love to have some packing hacks. Thank you for that. So I'll make sure to
Sure.
make a note of that. And okay, so I'm hearing a lot about community. And so, what do you say to someone who's like, "Well, I don't have a community. I don't know how to connect to a community." Or maybe they're introverted, or maybe they're shy and they don't want to do
Mhm.
the what is it, the meetup.com. Like, what do you say to that?
Well, that's a good question. So I think in many situations, the first thing might be to do experience or do the thing you want to do alone. Just getting out there and doing it, by yourself. And I think ultimately on a spiritual level, you tend to draw people. It may be one, it may be three people that want to do the same thing. I think the key is not putting pressure on yourself. I got to make community. I think it will happen naturally. And so the key is always going to be your inward practice, focusing on what it is you want to do and doing it. And then the other stuff tends to kind of happen over time. So, I mean, I can't give you a list of you should do this and this and this, and you can create a community. But I think also it's going to be important to really think about how you can stay open to new experiences. And so if you're a little reticent or nervous, start small. I'm a big believer in starting small. Take yourself to a play and get more in touch with who you are. And then over time, it's like anything else, you become a magnet for that which you are. So
Yes, yes. And I think there's it's called Kaizen, and I think it's Japanese, and it's the
yeah.
1% approach. So like small actions over time add up to big
Yes,
results, right?
exactly. You know about Kaizen,
I know
yeah.
about Kaizen. Now, do I always remember to like not eat more than I need
Yeah.
to chew? That's oh boy. So I know that we're kind of wrapping up here a little bit, but if there was one big takeaway really from all of this that we've mentioned, from traveling to finding community to going inward, having your own inward practice, to finding a creative outlet, maybe learning to paint or collage or journal or whatever it is, what's one big takeaway that you want to share with our audience that they maybe want to lean in for a little bit?
Yeah, I think Tara, it's really that you were sent to earth for a purpose,
Mm.
and that it's not by accident that you're here. And if you don't know what your purpose is, and there's not necessarily a one purpose, it could be many purposes. But I think it's important for us to really remember that we are special. And the fact that we were sent here and that we're special individually. There's not another Tira on this earth. I don't care what we might have in common. There's not another Tara here. And so to recognize that you are special, you were sent here for a purpose, and you were also sent here to enjoy life. I mean, we deal with a lot of trauma, we deal with a lot of negativity in life, but there are some beautiful things that happen in our lives. And so I really think it's important to remember that we are special. And Black women, we are really special. April Ryan has a new book called Black Women Will Save the World. And we've been doing it since we hit these shores. And so how more special can you get than that? So.
Oh, and that's something, it's funny, I was going to mention, do you have a special message for our Black women, our Black and brown sisters, but for our non-Black and brown sisters, do you have a message for them to help maybe support us as we're moving through menopause and beyond?
Sure. I become an ally with a person unlike yourself, and be a listener. Listen to the things that bring us joy, concern, and pain, and to be willing to share your story, and more importantly, your vulnerability as well.
Yeah, because I think in this day and age, we forget that, just because you have a different perspective, if you're different from a different background, doesn't mean that you're, I need to cancel you,
Right. No. I have all kinds of friends, all kinds of ages, who are into all kinds of things. And that's what gives life good meaning. Do we always agree on everything? Do we have the same worldview? No. Do we need to have the same worldview? No. We couldn't if we wanted to. And so I love them as much as I love someone who looks like me. It's what you're bringing to the table. And we all are women, and we can learn from each other.
Beautifully said. So as we kind of wrap up here, do you have any, where do people, how can they find you? How can they get in touch with you?
Sure. So my email is thisidoforme.com. That's the website. You can always peek in on my website. You can get me at robin@thisidoforme.com. My Facebook pages and Instagram pages are being revamped at this point. And so I won't give that out yet, but you have my website, and you have, what else did I give you? You can find me on LinkedIn as Robin Tillotson. And I think for now, that's about it.
Okay. And
Listen
is
to
that
the podcast too.
exactly? And will they be able to sign up for any upcoming trips with you, or are those all sold out for a while?
Well, all of them are sold out except one that I'm hosting in 2025. We're going to be going to Bali, Auckland, New Zealand, and Taipei, Taiwan. That's all one trip. So that's going to be a 13-day trip. So anyone interested in that can contact me again at robin@thisidoforme.com or via my website.
All right. Well, Robin Tillotson, thank you so much for being here, for shining your light, for giving us some nuggets of wisdom. I am so happy that you've been here. And yeah, this has been fantastic.
Thank you for the invite. And I look forward to hearing the other interviews as well.
Yeah, me too, Hayes. It's really shaping up. So thank you so much. And I will wrap it up and say thank you for listening, and we will see you next time.
Okay, Tara, take care now.
Bye bye.
Bye.